All right, here we go. We have Dan Perlman and Hassan Johnson of the show Flatbush Misdemeanors. Welcome to VladTV.
What's up, man? Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Stockton and Malone.
Who's who?
I did, right?
Yeah, I'll take Stockton. Yeah,
Right,
I loved him as a kid. Yeah.
Right?
Well, yo, man, I love the show. I've watched every episode, both seasons. And the show kind of, for me, just kind of came out of nowhere. I was just, I didn't hear anything about it. There was no real kind of press or promo. I was just, going through Showtime and I'm like, oh, what's this? And then I just got hooked.
That's what's up.
Nice,
It's
man.
like a Scud missile, right? And Desert Storm snuck right up on you. Boom!
It's a surprise. Yeah, it's a surprise.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. We go in with no hype or expectation,
That's
so
it.
everyone's
Just
pleasantly
kill 'em.
surprised. Yeah, exactly.
Well, this is the first time that both of you are here on Vlad TV. So I want to get in both of your stories. And I actually want to start with you, Dan. So you grew up in New York City.
I did. Yeah.
Okay. So what was New York growing up in the 90s?
I mean, I felt lucky because, well, I grew up in Manhattan, so I grew up Upper East. Both my parents worked, so I feel like I had a very good upbringing. But then I also felt lucky that like my closest friends were very scattered. So one of my best friends, Coach was still one of my best friends to this day, was in Washington Heights. Another best friend was in Jackson Heights. Another was in Bayside, Queens. So I feel like another was in the Bronx. So I feel like I was able to be exposed and spend a lot of time in different neighborhoods. So it wasn't too insular for me. Because I think that's a thing with New York that maybe people don't talk about as much, that as diverse as it is, it can be very siloed off and segregated a little bit. So I feel like fortunate I was able to, see different areas from a young age and not have too narrow an upbringing,
Well, you always want to do stand-up.
Yeah. That was always the goal, to be a stand-up comedian who makes things. So I would write jokes in my notebook and hide them under my bed because I was scared to say them aloud. And I wrote letters to comedians asking, how do you do stand-up and stuff, and asked them all a different question because I thought they all knew each other. So I was like, I got to ask them all a different thing. But yeah, that was always the hope,
The jokes probably warded off the boogeyman, too, under that.
Well, that's the only thing they did because they didn't make anybody laugh. If they did one thing, it was that.
Out of here.
Because it didn't work.
Boogeyman don't exist over here.
It just collected dust. Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Well, I actually found a YouTube channel. I guess it's one of your old YouTube channels where you did a stand-up from like 10 years ago. It was about ketchup.
Oh yeah! Wow, that was one of the first. That was one of the first jokes I ever did. It was this joke about. And this is a thing that I said, I finally went into therapy when I was 21. And I said this, I was talking about social anxiety. And I said this to the therapist and she started laughing because I was talking about how I felt like I couldn't start a conversation,
Okay.
And so I said, when I would start a conversation, I feel like when you take a ketchup bottle and you turn it upside down to get the ketchup out before you do get this watery kind of tomato juice liquid.
Thing,
that's me at the start of a conversation. I was saying it's just like nonsense and watery juice. And I was like,
Did you get to the good stuff?
Right. I was like, I'm jealous of ketchup bottles because they're transparent, I think I said. And so you sit through that because you're going to get there. But I just stumble out and they're like, what? And I'm like, no, it takes some time. But anyway, yeah, that was a big, for early on, I was very early in me doing stand-up. And so that was a fun thing because I was like, oh, a lot of these anxieties or thoughts or fears or whatever, or not being able to express shit when you say it aloud, people can connect with it and resonate. So that was hugely helpful for me,
Well, then in 2014, you were on this web series called Moderately Funny.
Yeah. So that was, so I did that with Kevin, who I co-created Flatbush with. So we met doing open mics. So I started doing open mics maybe 2013, I want to say, 2012, 2013. And when you start, you just go and bomb at open mics. You just get up for 2 to 3 minutes and have other comedians kind of just stare at you. Yeah, you just say whatever. And then half the people are completely insane and, but then you find people who share different sensibilities or whatever. So Kevin had recently moved from Texas, and so we shared that same kind of drive to just make shit beyond stand-up, just to like churn stuff out whether or not it was any good, you know? So we started making sketches together, and yeah, Moderately Funny was the name of it.
Right. And some of the same people from Flatbush Misdemeanors were actually showing up in some of those early skits. I think Kareem was in that one skit.
Yeah, Kareem played, we did a sketch where I'm going we were in the Long Island City projects, and I'm going to see.
Yeah, I saw that.
You saw it? I'm going to see Kareem's sister, it turns out. And Kareem was so funny. Like, I think that was, I had seen him do stand up, but that was the first time we'd like worked together, that I met him, and he was so funny. He's just like yelling at me. And he's like, I don't even know why he started getting into this. He's like, what am I, a frog? Like, what am I, a gorilla? What am I, a fish? And he starts like doing all these impressions of the animals. And these kids start lining up. You can like hear them in the background of the sketch. They start lining up like in the playground, and they're just cracking up. He's being so funny. And so, yeah, Kareem Green. So then when we were writing Flatbush, I was like, well, he's my stepdad, because he's just so fun to play off. Like, that
was a no-brainer.
I could, just want to do scenes with him forever. So, yeah, but that was fun because, we're comedians, and comedians are used to, we go do a lot of unpaid shows and a lot of like thankless whatever. So, those were the people we knew. And so those people you get to show up and just have them be funny. And, that's the benefit of comics. They're not going to have looked at the script. They're not going to have like read it. They're not going to know what they're doing or why they're there, but they know who they are. So if you make them comfortable, they make every scene better,
Well, watching that, it almost seems like that's almost the blueprint for what Flatbush Misdemeanors ended up being later on.
For sure. Totally. Yeah. I mean, that's sort of like, that gave us the idea. Because, the sketches that we did, most of them aren't even online because they're pretty bad. But like some of them were set in like an office type world, and some of them were set in that world that is what Flatbush became. And that one felt more unexplored and cool and different. So that's the route we went. But those sketches were super helpful in figuring out what we like to do and what seemed funny and who we liked working with, and all that shit.